only are interested in making that buck.
And everyone was saying Wilt was the GOAT. And then they started having, Jordan as the GOAT. And I'll never forget, Wilt said this. And it's at the 50 greatest thing when we joined in Cleveland. Wilt said this to Jordan. He said, the difference between me and you, he said, they had to change the rules for me so I couldn't dominate. And this is Wilt Chamberlain speaking. He said, they changed the rules for you, Jordan, so you can dominate. And so what I'm saying about Steph and I, right, is that, hey, okay.
People talk about him as being the greatest player of all time.
Well, it bothers me because we all have our opinions, and I don't think that, commensurate with what he's doing, what he's done, and how the game is going today, that he's better than Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, Bill Russell, a number of people.
The greatest scorer of all time? Not even. Would you even give him that?
Well, you see, what people don't remember was that my first 7 years, I scored a lot of points. Then I stopped scoring on my own volition. I tried to do other things. I was asked to do other things, and that's what I did. For the last 7 years, it wasn't about points to me. It was about trying to do other things. So when they compare me with Michael's averaging 31 points for his lifetime. I averaged about 30 points for a lifetime. But I stopped scoring. Understand? Like I'm saying, so if I had continued to score, I would probably be averaging 40 points for my whole lifetime. Does that make me the best scorer? I really don't know. But one thing I do know, that all the years while I was usually scoring all those points, I was leading the league in percentile shooting. And that's also important because if you take all the shots, then you should be making the highest percentage. I mean, there are guys like Charles Barkley who shoot 54, 55%. If he shot as much as Michael, he'd be scoring more points.
You have the 4 highest averages of all time, and I mentioned at the top of the show, and this is what's stunning to me, to average. And I don't know if people truly, the general public, truly can appreciate what it means to average 50 points a game over an entire season. Some guys just say, hey, they're in a zone if they scored 50 in one night. So you had to do that. When you look back, is that your greatest accomplishment?
Without a doubt. I used to think later in the season, if I go out here tonight and score 39 points, I will have let my team down. I'm 11 points below whatever they expect this from me, and this is what I have to go out there and do. No, it is, when I look back on it right now, that and probably playing 48.4 minutes a game for that entire season are the two things that I really reflect on as being the best I've ever done in basketball.
You led the league in scoring 7 straight years. So obviously those numbers give you the credibility to say some of the things you're saying about today's game, Wilt. But what about the person out there, the young player who's saying, well,
Giants, Wilt Chamberlain is the only player in NBA history to average 50 points for a season and score 100 points in a single game. A 4-time league MVP and a 2-time champion, Chamberlain left an indelible mark on the sport and in the NBA record book.
Oh, my impressions of Wilt is that everything you had done, he had done better. And he was that kind of a guy. I remember him from Philly, obviously. He's a Philadelphia guy. I went to school with his brother, so I kind of knew him and had seen him play. I sat on his sidelines while they played in the playgrounds a lot of times when he came back home, hoping to get picked to play, in those games with him and whatnot. But, he was a guy that I had idolized, so to speak. I wore his socks throughout my high school career because they were long and I had real skinny legs, so I was able to make my legs look a little bit bigger. But he was a guy that for me and most of the guys that I know, he's the greatest player to ever play the game.
Saw Wilt play when I was in high school because the Philadelphia All-Stars came down to play against the Washington All-Stars. Elgin leading that for Washington and Wilt leading that for Philadelphia. Wilt he's one of those guys could have played in any era. I think he is the most dominant basketball player of all time.
Wilt Chamberlain of the San Francisco Warriors, the league's leading scorer for the last 5 years, the league's deadliest man under the board.
The rebound, Luckenbill, back to Ruckwick, into Chamberlain. 100 points for Wilt Chamberlain.
He is one person that I would say saved the NBA. 1 year he averaged 50 points a game, and people came to see him play. He was such a big giant and an athletic person, blocking shots and rebounding and just scoring Wilt scored 100 points in a game up at Hershey, PA.
One of the players that played with the Knicks at that time, after the game was over, he called his wife and said, "Hey, Wilt and I scored 102 points tonight." And his wife was very thrilled, you know, that she thought her husband had a great night. She said, "Well, how many did you get?" He said, "Well, Wilt got 100 and I got 2.
Wilt Chamberlain of the Philadelphia 76ers, an all-star choice and the most valuable player of the league, the tallest, strongest, highest-scoring man of the NBA. As the all-time high scorer of the league, Wilt sets records every time he plays.
Some amazing things that I got a chance to watch him do besides lead a team to a championship. I remember the Sports Illustrated had a headline, Wilt, the reason he's passing the ball now is he can't score anymore. He's getting too old. And I'm not sure if it was the next 3 or 4 games, he averaged over 60 points, just to let everybody know that he hadn't forgotten how to score. Then he went back to getting assists and led the league that year in assists.
Guys like Jerry West and Elgin Baylor, I feel very, very happy that I'm being traded to a team that I believe may stand a chance to go down the record as one of the best teams in basketball ever.
I remember, Bill Sharman was the head coach, and he used to play for the Celtics, a bitter rival of Jerry West, and Jack Kent Cook hired him to be our head coach, and Bill Sharman had a ritual of game day shoot-arounds at 11 o'clock. And he tried to sell this to the team, and we all said, fine, we'll come in and warm up and move the blood a little bit, get ready and get out of bed. But Wilt wasn't going to have any of that. And he said, look, he's a coach. He said, I believe in your game day shoot-arounds. He said, however, you're going to get me once a day. Do you want me for the shoot-around, or are you going to have me for the game? And so, Bill keep trying to convince him to come, and he started to come. And when he started to come to the shoot-arounds, that was the day that we ran off 33 straight. And so there was no way that he could never not come to another shoot-around. And so he was a character, he was unique, he was very smart, and loved playing with him.
Senior writer Sean Powell